When I heard Kamala Harris's concession speech, when she got to the part about the fact that that adage historically that says, in every nation, it has to get dark enough for you to see the stars and let us fill the sky with a billion stars. That's when I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And not because I'm a Kamala Harris stan, but because of the vision that she was fighting for, at least that she had articulated for the nation, was something that I thought was going to be so helpful to so many people. And the harm that the Republicans had promised is going to do so much harm to so many people. So when I saw your video about it's okay to cry, I was like, all right, those tears were good tears. I needed those tears to flow.
Yeah, and I consider, like, as a psychologist, and a human being, I'm a pretty emotional person. I think it is one of the things that contributes to me being really good at my job, being able to actually
Mm,
see people, despite the fact that many of us, as Black people, mask, being able to see through that mask. But I'm a
yeah.
very emotional person. I cry all the time, and I have no problem with it. Like I am an emotional person. I get a release after that. Like I remember getting told, like, don't cry in the office, but I'm like, well, when half
Mm,
of the acid the racist a-holes are like in the office, can I, when I'm supposed to clock out? Like,
right.
and I don't feel ashamed for it. Like, I'm ashamed, you're ashamed, you're embarrassed. Okay. Well, I'm kind of focused on me crying right now. I don't really have a thing with that. And then I regulate,
Mm,
then I discuss and kind of go forward with that. The order I was picking up were cards for my support group for Black women. Pick those up for their care packages and use that frustration and that anger kind of to fuel what I wanted to do next. But a lot of people cry, and it's not even always sadness, it's just frustration. A lot of times I'll cry because I'm
yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like, if I act how I want to act, I'm gonna go to jail. Because I just want to choke you out. I got kids. I'm over here. I don't want to lose my license. So I'm also,
Right.
crying. Tears also happen when I'm like furious that I just can't snap because I got to be an adult. It's exhausting being an adult.
It really
Sometimes you
is.
do want to choke somebody out. Like,
Really, truly, frequently,
yeah. So
frequently.
it's like, oh my God, I got to talk this out. And all I want to do is smack you around.
Mm. Can you take us through the science again? Because I know people heard it in that clip, but I think understanding the biochemical nature of emotions and its
Yeah.
connection to our physical body is important for us to know, particularly because we're descended from people who, as a result of our enslavement experience, and y'all remember, I don't ever just talk about the ancestors as the ones who were enslaved, because there was billions more who never was. But for
Yeah.
those who were, who are our most direct tie to our ancestral connections, being able to express emotions freely was a luxury. Like literally having to laugh in quiet places and stick your head in devices so that the white folks wouldn't hear you expressing joy was a thing. Like not being able to show that you were hurt, like not being able to fully own the expansive nature of your emotions. That was something that many of our enslaved ancestors didn't necessarily have access to do as readily as we can now. Talk us through what that science says about what we hold in our bodies.
Yeah, I always tell people, everyone, but especially Black people, like, there's no need to dehumanize yourself in the way that the world has always done to us. Dehumanization and
Mm,
stultification are the fuel that keeps the machine of white supremacy going. So you don't have to deprive yourself of the human qualities of, anger or sadness or frustration, or honestly just being pissed off, having to sublimate that, and thinking it's best for you. You let yourself cry when you feel overwhelmed. It can be a
right.
reset button for your nervous system. Most of the time we talk about like fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system, but there's also like the parasympathetic nervous system, which is called like
Mm.
rest and digest. They're never, they're operating in tandem all the time, but when one is elevated, the other is decreased. So when you're rearing to
Oh.
fight and flight, your parasympathetic nervous system is like going down, because it's like, well, maybe we don't need to be focusing on diverting our energy to digestion right now, because it seemed like we about to be in a fight. So like
Mm.
let's put all of our energy and like blood and fuel and stuff like that to the sympathetic nervous system. But it's the exact opposite when you are crying, because it can stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to slow you down. It's called rest and digest for a reason. So help to
Wow.
slow your heart rate and your blood pressure and try to promote a state of calm. And that can very much happen when you are crying and signaling your body that it's time to slow down. I tell my patients all the time, like, I know it's corny, but the reason why breathing exercises work, I'm like, I know you guys, nobody wants to hear the science, but it really just tricks your brain into being like, okay, so she's slowing down her breathing. I think that means we need to chill her
Huh.
out. You're really just tricking your brain to be like, I'm not chill. But if I
Huh.
keep pretending to be chill, my body will be like, oh, we chill. Okay, let's decrease. If she's breathing slower, that must means it's okay to slow down. So she must be okay. Now, mind you, you're breathing
Wow.
slowly and you're like internally
I'm
screaming.
dying inside.
I'm screaming. But like it very much like the reasons why whenever I tell my patients to like to do breathing exercises and they're like, oh my God. I'm
Mm,
like, it first of all, you can breathe everywhere, but also it
right.
really does trick your brain to slow down and get you to the place where you're trying to be, even when you're not there yet. So that's why it's
Mm,
helpful. And I also think like, sometimes people, I said like let out that guttural scream when it comes to that. But a lot of times, we are forced to like not be within our bodies. We are forced
right.
to, because especially generationally, if we were in our bodies, we would literally just break down. Like think about all of the
Right.
things and the harms and atrocities that were done to us and our bodies and our souls and generation, not just us, but our community as a whole. So us numbing ourselves and being disconnected from our body was also very much a protective factor. But it's also one of the reasons
Wow.
why, in addition to talking to patients and working with them on their skills, I try to bring them back into their body. I try to work with them on progressive muscle relaxation. One of the clips I did on a video was that day the during the session, and we did progressive muscle relaxation because we're focusing on that week we were focusing on medical advocacy in the support group. And everybody was like, it was Tuesday. They're like, we're too
Mm,
anxious. Like we can't, I know we need medical advocacy, but like
mm,
we can't do it. So I walk them through like a progressive muscle relaxation exercise. And I'm like, it's very helpful to be in your body. There's a reason why when people are saying you need to get it together. Some people say, go touch some grass because it
right.
seems like you have lost all sight of reality. Like
Mm,
it's like we need you
mm.
to to be back in your body. So
Whew.
with muscle relaxation and even like tapping your chest can help, like, just remind you like where you are. Grounding exercises is what they're called. But I want you to be back in
Wow.
your body because disassociation happens often. But it only,
Mm,
disassociation doesn't happen as a result of good things. It's your body's response, it's your brain's response literally to so much trauma that it's like we have to check out because we
wow.
can't physically, like we can't mentally be
Right.
present in space because such awful things are happening. So you disassociate, you become numb, you have significant gaps in your memory because it's just like
Mm,
your body is like, oh, we got to check her out or we're not going to survive this. This is a terrible encounter. So grounding is very helpful to bring you back to that space. And I encourage people to do that and not be embarrassed about it. Because a lot of times people will be like, oh, I don't want to
yeah.
cry. Girl, I'm crying right now. Like, why would I be embarrassed? You over here trying to make me feel bad for emotions. You should be embarrassed. Are you
Oh.
okay?
Oh. Hmm. Somewhere
I
there's
am
a parent
human.
telling a child stop crying who just got convicted by what you just said. I'm gonna just
Yeah, no,
leave that
I'm
there.
human. No, the reason why
Yeah.
dehumanization continues is because like it's so embedded in stuff that we do it to ourselves too.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not going to tell my child not to cry. And I also differentiate between emotions and actions. Like you are not getting, like, I'm not screaming at you. And you're allowed to have emotions. There's nothing wrong with crying, but you crying and you picking up that truck that I bought and then throwing it,
Mm.
it's not about the
Mm.
crying. It's about throwing that
Right.
truck. That's my truck. That's not even yours. That's mine.
Right. I let you use
That's,
it.
that's my favorite Tonka truck. You don't know, like but also
Ah,
differentiating that for parents and children to be like, there's nothing wrong with emotions. I want you to show emotions. Sometimes he gets upset with me, and I'm like, it's okay to be upset with me. That's fine. I totally understand. Do you need some space? And he'll tell me he needs some space. He's 5. If I'm mad at my
mm.
mom, I don't want her over here talking to me either. like, mom, I don't.
Facts. Yes, that is very true. And as an adult, we can articulate that and we expect children to just
Yes.
sort of eat these things and take it because there's a power dynamic there. And I'm always curious about what would my parenting look like without a power dynamic, right? And which is a weird question I know for us to ask in our community, but I think more of us should ask that question because can you engender respect and compliance without lauding your authority? I don't know. Like it's something I've struggled with. So I think that's something that would help me be perhaps strive towards being a better parent. I gotta work on
Yeah,
me.
but
Lord is
with
not finished
us,
with me yet.
I think when he ain't finished, none of us. I always say healing, not healed, because we're always going to have
Mm,
experiences that I'm probably going to have to heal from. But I would
right.
say with the Black community, exactly what you mentioned, like you mentioned parenting out of respect. A lot of times parents are trying to parent out of obedience, and it's
Right.
like the veiled aspect of respect. And there's a difference between obedience and respect. Respect builds relationships, obedience builds resentment. And I think
Oh.
historically it makes sense, right? Because like we had to rear, we were brought up, we weren't reared and like generationally in obedience. Like that's how people survived, and that's how we reared our children to be like, listen,
Mm,
it's literally life or death if you don't get this right, if you look at the wrong person or the right person a
right.
certain way, if you talk too much, if you don't talk enough, if you don't move fast enough. So yeah, it was salient, it was protective to rear our children generationally out of obedience, but that's not where we are now. And I think it's hard to
Mm,
let that go because it's just like what people are used to. Like, this is how I was always brought up. Yeah,
yeah.
you were brought up in a time of, well, it's not the same. It's still difficult, but like of
Right.
Jim Crow and stuff, like it was life or death. I don't want to rear you that way. That's like not where we are. And I can also
Yeah.
acknowledge the fact that you doing that helped it to be so that I even get to have this conversation with you about, hey, we apologize to our children.
Right.
Like it wasn't for
Right.
you, you wouldn't have been able to get there. But I can also acknowledge that you gave what you did the best that you could. You gave all that you had while also acknowledging
Mm.
that you too did not have enough.